I just got a package. Actually, I got another package too, but I took it inside already. But this is going to be so exciting for my upcoming trip. So I guess it's time to do a little bit of an unboxing. Hello adventurers, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm super excited because you saw we're going to be doing an unboxing today. But I noticed a little label on there saying this is ALLPOWERS. Now ALLPOWERS has previously sent me a power station to try out and give a fair and honest review to you guys, and you've seen it here on my channel, and I will make sure to link it at the end of this video so you can go back and see that particular power station. However, I had some feedback on there that I wanted to share with the company, and I did so, and as a result they said, we think that this power station might solve some of those issues. So today we're going to be reviewing an ALLPOWERS power station, doing an unboxing, and also see if what we just saw on the porch was a solar panel. If so, I'm super happy because I love the ALLPOWERS solar panels. They're super, super good. I took mine on my last trip with me yet again, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm going to be showing you guys those kind of in connection with one another, but first let's get to the big business, opening a box. Okay, these boxes got super dusty because they came on a UPS truck, so outside, lots of dust, really nasty on the hands, but it is time for us to cut inside and see what's in this bigger one first. Oh, this is interesting looking. It is a solar panel, but it looks like it has a little pouch on the front, so this looks a little different than the last ALLPOWERS solar panel that I got. Ooh, got a little dusty on the way out, but this thing is big, large and in charge. Has our little feet here that kick out so that it can support the panel while it's out and about. This one actually has some little buckles on it, which is different than the last one. So that's pretty cool. And then inside it folds out, maybe. Oh, this is a much larger solar panel than the other one. The original panel that I have is a 100-watt solar panel. This one looks to be a 200-watt. And if that's the case, this is going to charge a big boy power station a lot faster. So that would make sense as to why the box is so big, I guess. Indeed, it is much larger. The original one that I have is just 2 panels. This one is 4, and as you can see, it folds out. So it folded one time over from here, and then it opens up and then folds out. Each one of these panels has its own support, so you can lay these out. This is going to be awesome. I also do like that it has the buckles since it is thicker, so it keeps it together. So solar panels like this make it easier for the average person to have access to a portable power station or power generator of any kind, because what they do is they take the sun directly into that panel, and then it takes that sun and turns it into energy that can charge your actual power station. So you can not ever have to plug in and still be able to thrive out in the middle of nowhere, which is really nice because I like to camp places that don't typically have plug-ins. Okay, I'm gonna keep this box on this side of the room and just open it up. I was kind of hoping that this wasn't going to be the size of the whole box because this is huge, but maybe inside this box it won't be that big. Like when I say big, I mean big. This is a regular size stovetop, and you can see how big it is across, and this is almost just as wide as a regular stovetop. So the box itself was very interesting to carry because it's also kind of heavy. Whew, like struggle bus from across the room because it's a box. It doesn't have handles on it. So that was interesting. So maybe if you get this and you're unboxing it, maybe don't carry it across a room because it's really kind of precarious and, again, very large. But let's get into the specs before we take it out of the box real quick. This is the S2000, and it is a lithium-ion battery. You can see right here. The capacity is 1,500 watt-hours, and the weight of it is approximately 14.5 kilograms. So this is not in pounds, it's kilograms. So I'll do some quick math. Okay, that's almost 32 pounds. So that kind of makes sense with no handles as to why it'd be a little weird to carry, especially with the slick box. Now they do have the size in inches though. So it is 14.76 by 9.64 by 9.84 inches. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. The input here says that it has a max of 400 watts for the AC capacity and 500 watts for the solar panel. So that's pretty cool. And then output, this is where it really gets into the meat and potatoes of what it can do. It has a surge wattage of 4,000 watts with continuous watts of 2,000 watts. So that's what we need to know for what kind of devices we're going to be able to use on this. Now, with that said, it is now time to actually get inside of the box to see what this looks like. Now, is this going to be something that's going to work out for every van lifer? We're about to find out. Now, as you know, I have a tiny van. So anything that goes into my van needs to be able to have outlets on the front facing panel and not necessarily the side panels, because if I use this in my build setup, I can't use it if I have to use the sides for plugs. But if I use it in my no build setup, I can. So if you're a person who has a very limited amount of output space, in other words, something has to stay in one place, then you need everything on one front facing panel so you can access it. The last one kind of struggled with that, which is what I mentioned in my review. So we're going to see if this one has the same issue or if it's something completely different. I'm very excited to see this version because it's supposed to be the more accessible for van life upgrade. So inside we go with this deep tongue. And okay, right on top we have a book that we're going to go ahead and pull out that has a warranty on it. This is important. Okay, foam time. And there's two little pieces over here, which, there we go. It pulls everything kind of up. So it was well packaged, definitely. So nothing should happen to it, despite the fact that it's probably had a very interesting life to get here. This is at least, I want to say, 4 inches of foam on the part that's protecting the top of the battery, and then 2 good inches on each side and also at the ends. Now, I've had some people say, Bunny, we don't care about the packaging, but I do care about the packaging because I have learned that as I've tried out companies kind of along the way in the adventure space for 6 years, that some companies do value their packaging on electronics more than others. And on the ones that do, I've not had any kind of electrical issues. But on the ones that have scrimped on their packaging just a little bit, those are the ones that I've had some issues with. And most of those you haven't even seen on the channel because I haven't felt like they were good enough to show you. So I always mention that so you can see that the packaging definitely says, hey, we like our product. We want you to like it too, and we want it to get there in one piece, even with the postal system. Now, inside of the dark abyss, we have the power station itself, and I already see a few things that I am really excited about from this model that were not on the last model, but there's something else over here first, so we're gonna get into what's in here, and then we'll get this guy out. How curious. This is actually a case for the battery, I think. This is cool. It's like a bag that looks to be the size of the battery. There's also something over here, and I believe this is probably going to be our connectors and cords, but let's check. Inside we go, and yep, cords and connectors. Here it is. I found a way to get it out and move the box. I will say this is a more manageable size than I was thinking it was going to be based on the box itself. I just went ahead and clicked a button because the DC kind of got turned on whenever I was moving it out, and it popped up that there's already 83% on the battery, so that's super good. So now we can talk about all the different features, I guess. Oh my goodness, this is such a relief. They may be right. This could be a better fit for my van because one of the things that I'd mentioned in the previous video was that those ports were on the sides, but the other thing was that they had this great awesome thing that works really well for using a battery around your house. They put like a suitcase handle like you would have on your like luggage at the airport, and that was really awesome for moving it around in a big open space like this. But in a limited space like my van, it made it harder to move the actual unit. So if you go check out that video, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about, but this one has none of that. So this is going to be ideal for van life when it comes to the size, I think. This is going to be really good. Just to kind of give you an illustration of how big the box was versus how big the power station is, you can see all of this foam went all the way to the edges, but the power station is much smaller. Okay, I'm starting off with the side. It looks like we have a nice vent here for the actual motor, and the fan can vent out this side, so that's good. And then in the front, we have lots of different places to plug and play. We'll talk about those in a minute. And then on this side, another little vent. So this is perfect. But something else I really like, these are very firm handles, and you also could take these off if you really didn't like them, I guess. But all in all, I like the grip on these. They're a bit thinner, so I would say this would be a good, comfortable hand depth for someone with smaller hands like myself, or someone with larger hands, because there's enough room to move in there. So all in all, that's nice. And then it has a flat top. There's no handle on top. I prefer flat top power stations because then I can place things on them. Now, nothing heavy, but if I was in my van and I needed to set something on it, I can, versus ones that have a handle and then it would slide off and be in my floor. Okay, there is one thing on the back, but only one, and it's this. This is a plug that you can actually plug it in to charge it with. So that's on the back side. That's okay. I think I can deal with that because it's not all the plugs that you would use on a daily basis. So all in all, the new design of the ALLPOWERS, so far it's winning. Now again, I know I go through my unboxings and reviews a little bit different than some of the other channels. However, whenever I'm looking at it from the perspective of, will this work physically in my space? And will it actually bring the value for the size and also the price point to not only myself, but other people? Because I think that's really important. Whenever I first started out, I had 0 power stations at all. And in picking up my very first power station, I started to really quickly realize that there are a few things that I definitely needed, and a few things that, even though some companies have really good intentions with, they just aren't very practical for the average person like myself. The other thing is, all of the well-intentions with all of the tech advances and things like that are great, but if they're not executable in a way that helps an average person, then it doesn't matter if it has all these extra features if you can't use them in the space for which you're trying to use them. So I try to take a more practical approach when it comes to the size, the shape, the dimensions, how easy it is to actually pick up and carry, because all of those things are things that I personally need to make sure are there before I introduce them to my van. Otherwise, it just becomes an inconvenient mess on the road, and I end up not turning to that power station because it's difficult. Here on the front face, we have 4 outputs for AC right here at the top. That's great placement because if you're charging something, you can plug it in here and set it on top. That's what I do a lot of times with my camera batteries. Then we have our DC right over here, and it has a cover. And because this cover is brand new, it's in there pretty good. But I would always rather have a plug cover and it be in there and protecting that port versus not having a plug cover, because what happens is if you don't have a plug cover, it starts to corrode as you get that morning moisture in your van. And what that does is that makes that plug go out much faster. I've had it happen. I don't like it. And I don't want you guys to have to deal with that. So those 2 things, really, really good. But there's some other things on here too that are looking pretty good also. Like this, 2 Type-C ports right here. And then also 4 USB ports. So I would have the ability to charge all sorts of things using these. That is so handy because, again, everything is right here on the front. And then in addition, we have an input here on the front also that can come in, and that looks like, interesting. That looks like it comes straight off of solar into there, but we may also have an adapter. So let's go look at our cords now. Now, in a perfect world, we're going to have the ability to charge this without turning it around, but we're going to see. And this little cord pouch right here is going to keep all of our things together so that we don't lose them or get them mixed up with another power station. And I will also be labeling these because I like to kind of mix and match my solar panels sometimes. It just makes things easier. Okay, so these are our 3 cords that are included. And I will say this one is just a regular standard wall plug that goes into that back outlet. So in a few minutes, we'll plug this in and see kind of how it goes. This one is one that can plug into your DC in your car. and it can plug straight into the front, which is so nice because when I'm traveling, I like to charge as I'm driving, and something like this makes that possible. So that is so handy to me because you don't always necessarily have your standard wall plug available unless you're at a campsite that has power, or you're like at a Starbucks and happen to want to lug this bad boy in. Now this one right here, it looks like it does come in from the solar, and so there's a couple of different attachments there. And then we have this, which would go again straight into the front. So we have 3 methods of charging this one battery, all of which make it a lot more user-friendly. And so now, without further ado, we're going to use this one, plug it in over here, and see what it looks like while it's starting to charge. I can't say it enough. If you have the ability to test your equipment before you head out on the road, please do. Even if that means you're staying at somebody's house for a day and you just want to get it out and plug it in, or you're at a hotel, you're at your base camp, or even if you just happen to get a paid site for the day, just to make it a little bit easier to get everything charged up to top. Because if we start off with full batteries, it's always much easier to navigate through life than always playing catch up. If we're always playing catch up, then we always feel like we're having to top off or drive further or put the solar panel out. And I prefer just to start off with a full battery and testing everything before I hit the road when possible. Everything came all wrapped up, so looks like I'm gonna be sitting here unraveling this wrapping for at least a couple minutes because it's on here good. Okay, now we pull the cap. So now I take this end and I just put it into the puzzle piece side right here and push it in really good. Okay, there we go. Good to go. Oh, this instantly started making sounds and the fan kicked on like immediately. Okay, so this is what it looks like when it's plugged in. It does make a very interesting sound. It does show that the fan is engaged while it's charging. And as it's charging, you can see that it's moving very quickly through this and already went up 1%. Kind of let this sit here for a few minutes and see how long it takes us to get from 84% to fully charged. Just for reference, it's 3:13 in the afternoon. Again, this is why I like to test things. I want to know how many watts for how long gets it to where it needs to go, so I can do the mental math to say, okay, if it was completely dead, how long would it take for me to get it fully charged? Okay, that went quickly. We're now up another percentage, but again, I'm just going to continue monitoring this for a little bit, and I'll be right back. Okay, a little update, 325, and we are now up to 93%. Still pulling about 409, 410 watts. So we gained about 8% in about 10 minutes. Not too bad, right? But it's just continuing to go, and as you can see, 327, we've already gained another percent in just 2 minutes. The fan is pretty loud though, I will say that. It's not so loud that it like annoys me, and if I was driving down the road I wouldn't hear it at all, but I can definitely hear the fan on this one. Some power stations are just super quiet. This one you're going to know is present. Okay, something I just noticed, it does power down the screen when you're not using it. Just to see it, you just click this one little button again, then it activates it so you can see it. Okay, we have about 3% left, and it is 3:32 as you can see. So it's going pretty quickly. So while that's finishing out, I have 2 USB devices. Both of these have a USB plug-in end, and we're going to be trying both of these out individually to see about how much that they draw. And then we're also going to be seeing if we can plug both of them in together and how much that ends up being. Woohoo! Just one. That's all we need. We went from 85% to almost fully charged, and it is now 3:34. So less than 20 minutes, and we're almost there. Not too bad. 15% in about 20 minutes. That's really good. I am very curious once it gets to 100 though, if the fan turns off. Because if the fan is just continuously running, that will ultimately end up draining the battery a little bit. Okay, it's 3:39, and I may have spoken a little bit too soon. It got to the final percentage, and it just keeps going. This 1 percentage point seems to be taking longer than all the others. 7 more minutes has passed, and it still is on 99%. So effectively, it's taken longer to go 1% than it did the entire rest of the 15% that we've gone. Is it a little weird? Yeah. I don't understand it, but at the same time, I don't think that this is a deal breaker still, because even though it's taking longer to get to that final percentage point, I have no reason as to why it would hinder me from being able to use the power station as a whole. So, with that said, let's test some things. Ooh, as soon as I unplugged it, the fan instantly turned off. So that's good to know. I'm gonna start off with the battery right here, setting it up on the top like I would use it in my regular day-to-day life. And then I'm gonna take this cord and plug it in right here. And because this is on the DC panel, we'll turn on the DC, and there it is. So now we can see that it's plugged in and pulling out 4 watts right there. And so it is in fact working. Something else kind of neat here is it tells you how many hours that it continuously could run if you are using this particular device. And it's going to fluctuate until it grabs the maximum amount of pull that it's going to have, which looks like it's kind of rounding out around 3. So if I was only charging this one device, I could charge it for 237 hours. So that's not too bad for some GoPro batteries. But now I'm going to unplug this one and notice that it drops down to 0%. And then I'm going to move the light over here and do the same thing. Okay, here goes the light. Plugging it in and then turning it on. There's a nice little bunny light right there. This would be perfect for something in van life because it is USB. I just found this on Amazon. It's great for just like a little decoration, but gives off a lot of light actually. It's pulling about 8 watts, which means that this could run for 118 hours continuously and give me 118 hours worth of light. That's pretty cool. So this is definitely doing its job. Okay, we have both of them in now and it's starting to add to the watts that are being drawn out. We're at 11 watts. And again, both of these are plugged in and going. And you can see here, that drops us down to 91 hours if we were running both of these continually. So we could have both of these going for 91 hours nonstop. Now, is that logical for me to run that one battery for 91 hours? No, it takes it about 2.5 hours to 3 hours to charge depending. And so if I was just doing that in short bursts, this would last a really long time if I just needed to have those 2 devices. But in van life, at least my van life, I've noticed that I use a lot of other things. So let me show you some of the other things that I could run with this and kind of how that would work. This is what I like to call my battery killer. This is my laptop, and because of the programming that I run on my laptop, it takes a lot of power. So I have my cord right here. I'm going to plug it into the front face of the power station. Okay, there it is. Then I'm going to turn off my DC for the time being by just tapping it and turn on the AC. And you hold. It's always interesting to get used to new things. Okay, I learned something about the AC. The AC is a little different than the DC. So I turned away the camera for a second, and the DC, notice you can just hold it for a second and it turns right on. And then everything starts working. And then you can just tap it and it turns off. The AC though, you have to hold down for a little bit longer and then it turns on. So that is very good to note. I'm gonna go ahead and plug this back in now. Those AC plugs are pretty tight, so two-handed, definitely needed because they've never been used before. So whenever you're putting it in, it's like, oh, wow. Okay, we're starting off at 0 watts because it is not engaging the laptop because the laptop is closed, even though there's power running over here. So then whenever I open it, it instantly starts to shift because those programs engage, and you can see that right now it's about anywhere between 12 and 16 and it's kind of fluctuating. So that's pretty decent right there. And right now, because the laptop's been plugged in for a little bit, this is just a working battery. So it's going to sit there and continue to fluctuate. And doing this, it would have about 33 to 37 hours, it looks like, that I could run the laptop. From all those hours to not near as many hours, I think you can see now why I say that my laptop is power hungry. In fact, out of all the devices that I have, it's the one that I have to use the most consistently, but sucks down the most of my batteries in my van, because I need my laptop to be able to create videos for you guys. But at the same time, I need certain programs to be able to use the laptop, and each program that you add to your laptop makes it need more power. And so 33 hours on a battery is actually pretty good for a laptop. It's many more than some of my other power stations that I've tried here on the channel can do, but you know, we're not finished yet. Now, I put on just one of my videos so we could test this so there's no trademark or copyright problems, but does running a video actually change the amount that you're pulling since it's something that's active? It looks like no, it does not. Not unless your battery is already running low, in which case it really needs to grab from this. So it kept it pretty consistent, 8 to 9 out. So that's not terrible. That's not terrible at all. So that means if I was using my laptop as a television, I could watch 36 hours of television before this power station would die. But let's make it a little bit more complicated. Let's add our DC back in here and see, can we put both of them on at the same time? Ooh, what's going on? There we go. Oops. I'm gonna have to get used to these buttons. They're very different than my other power station buttons. They're a little bit different feeling. And then also engaging both of them is slightly different. Okay, there it is. So it's a slower touch there and a longer touch there, but it's not a double touch, because if you double touch, then it doesn't turn on. So now we went from 8 or 9 up to 19 and 18. And so both of these are here. And you'll notice that that's 28 hours now. So we dropped down from 36 hours to 28 hours just by adding the DC plugins also to the one that was on AC. So that's pretty interesting to note, but this is kind of how it works and kind of how I juggle life in my van using a power station like this. Now I hope this is kind of handy so you can see practicality of how I do things. At nighttime every night, I crawl into my van, I take all my batteries out that I've used for the day, and I plug them in to a power station like this. Then I set them all up on top so they can all charge up. Sometimes I run my lights off of my power station like we are here, and I always am running my laptop in some capacity. So having all of these things centrally located on the front panel is such a game changer. Really happy about this. And also being able to see the time. The time that you can have using these items is going to be very handy, because as I'm sitting there planning and figuring out where I need to plug what in at night, this will help me to determine if I have enough power for an extended amount of time. Sometimes I know I'm going to sit down and work on my computer for 5 minutes. Other times I'm going to sit down and work on my computer for 4 hours. And if I look on the battery and it says I only have 3 hours, I'm probably not going to plug it into this battery. Instead, I would use a secondary battery. But if I see that I have 36 hours, I could be like, oh yeah, that's where I'm plugging the computer in today. So I hope this is handy with kind of determining some of the things that ALLPOWERS has to offer. I am going to go ahead and take this out on the road though and do a full set of tests so I can share with you guys a progress report of how it does along the way. And if some of the things that I discovered I think will work better for someone who has a smaller van, or if I think that this would be something that would be better for a preparedness item. I do like to do these reviews where I take some time with the item so I can really know what I'm talking about before I share them with you guys. But these unboxings, they're super handy because it lets us kind of get a sneak peek as to what's there, and then also how we might be able to envision ourselves using these. So I hope that you've enjoyed coming along. Remember, we're not here for a long time, but we are here for a good time, and new batteries are always that. Till next time, guys. Bye.